Hey, what's going on, guys? Reaper here, and welcome to Reaper's Papas on Supply. So today we're going to talk about how to blank adapt an SKS for reenacting. But first things first, before we get into that, I just want to state that I am not a licensed or registered gunsmith, and although I have blank adapted several firearms over the years for reenacting purposes, I'm by no means a professional. If this is something you haven't done before or do not feel comfortable doing yourself, I highly recommend that you seek out an experienced or competent gunsmith to do this, as they should have no problem doing this type of work for you. And everything in this video should be used for information purposes only. Now that that's out of the way, we can go ahead and get started on how to blank adapt an SKS. But first, one of the most important rules to weapon safety or firearm safety is to make sure your gun is clear and safe. So, lock open your bolt, inspect your chamber, take your little finger for a little extra safety measure, double check clear. Weapon is in fact clear. Alright, now that I've got the SKS in the vise, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this first thing, since I know that there's going to be questions about it, and at least one person, there's always that one guy that'll make mention of it in the comments. So, SKSs come with a cleaning kit that normally you can find in the trapdoor of the buttstock. So, with this, see it here, it has a cap on it that you screw off, and if you look closely, it's got little prongs on it and a hole in the front. Conveniently, this cap goes over the muzzle and screws on behind the sight base. Now, some of you probably already know where I'm going with this and have heard the tale, and some of you have already probably gotten some very unsafe misinformation about this as well. So, there's a bunch of people out there that believe or think this to be a blank adapter. It isn't. Do not use it as a blank adapter. It is specifically for cleaning your rifle, to protect your muzzle from your cleaning rod so you don't mess up the crown or your rifling or anything like that when cleaning the weapon. Unfortunately, the old tale of this being a blank adapter is still going around, and it's out there. I tested this theory roughly 15 years ago, back when we were doing some prep and pre-production work for an independent film we were trying to make at the time. So we were looking at all possible options for blank adapting or blank fire of certain types of firearms. One of them happened to be an SKS. So I took this thing, went ahead and put it on, put in a blank of the rifle, and well, let's just say it turned into a projectile. I was aiming at a garage that we had. Never thought that what had happened would happen. This thing went flying and went through the garage. I mean, it went through both walls of the garage, and that pretty much just ended the idea of this ever being a BFA. So, that being said, guys, I just want to make it very clear, do not, under any circumstances, use this as a BFA. I don't care how light the load is in a blank or whatever, this thing, I promise you, will come off and turn into a projectile and potentially hurt and or kill someone. So, now that that's out of the way, we'll go ahead and get into how you have to blank adapt an SKS. This is where things get fun. So, to blank adapt your SKS safely and properly, you do have to drill and tap the barrel. Now, I know some of you guys are thinking to yourselves, oh God, no, I don't want to do that. Well, it's really not that big of a deal, and it's really not that hard. Like I said, if it's something that you're not comfortable with or don't have any experience with doing or using these types of tools, again, I highly recommend seeking out a competent and experienced gunsmith for this. However, if this is a project that you think you would like to undertake yourself, I highly recommend using a drill press. You can use a good, powerful corded drill for this, which is exactly what I did with this specific SKS. I do recommend that if you do that, though, have somebody that can watch your drill, take extra care, because you want to make sure that your drill bit is as straight as possible going into this barrel. So A couple things I want to talk about real quick because I know there's going to be some questions about it. When drilling this out, how far back should you go? Well, realistically, if you can see the muzzle and if you have an SKS, there's roughly about ½ inch. I wouldn't go more than ½ inch, maybe a little further. Basically where your sight post is, I drilled probably just up to or a little further behind that. Beyond that, there's really no need to go any deeper. Also, some people are probably wondering, how does it affect accuracy? Well, to be honest with you, this is a heavily used rifle when I purchased it. I wasn't really too worried about affecting the accuracy in the weapon. However, the crown on it was already kind of jacked up, so by drilling it back in there, I, in theory, somewhat recrowned the barrel from the inside. Now, whether that really affects anything once you drill and tap the barrel, I'm not really sure. Like I said, I didn't notice any accuracy differences or any problems with the weapon firing it live after doing this. Now, when you do this, you're going to need roughly a 5/16 bit and or a Q size bit, and then you'll need a 3/8, a 24 tap. Again, if you're planning on doing this yourself, I highly suggest taping your drill bit on the end somewhere so you don't go too far into the barrel. And remember, guys, take it slow, don't get in a rush, make sure your drill bit's straight, and keep your drill bit well oiled. Also, back your drill out every so often, check it, clear debris, go back in until you're finally where you want to be. And of course, you go in and do the tap. Same rules kind of apply with the tap. Make sure it's straight, aligned, go slow, cut your threads, back it out, clear debris, and just keep going until you're done. So, it's really that simple. I understand how it'll make a lot of people nervous to do that. I know that when I did it, it wasn't too big of a deal, but the main thing I wanted to make sure of is that I had my drill bit straight, especially using a hand drill. I did, like I said, I had somebody watching, making sure it was straight, level, we were checking it, and yeah. Also, the same thing with the tap. You want to make sure that it's straight, it's not getting all wobbly and crooked, and you're going in like this instead of like this. Next step, you're going to want to get yourself a good hardened set screw. You're going to want to drill a hole down the middle of it. Now, this is very important, specifically for safety reasons as well. When you do this, drill the biggest hole you can possibly get in that set screw. Now, what blanks to use is entirely up to you. Predominantly what you're going to find for an SKS is going to be military surplus, probably. So once you figured out what style blank you're going to use, and you want to do this anytime you purchase a new style of blank. So if you didn't purchase the exact same blanks you purchased previously, you're going to have to repeat this process. So what you do is you take your set screw, you put it in there with the biggest hole possible that you can still get it in there with your Allen head wrench and screw it into the muzzle. And then you will step it down. So what that means is once it's in there, the SKS probably isn't going to actually cycle with that larger hole. So what you do is you step it down in diameter. You go down to the next size hole, thread it back in the muzzle, try again. Now you're going to continue to do that until the rifle starts cycling properly. And once you figure out what diameter hole works for the blanks that you have, put them in a bag and mark them with that diameter. And maybe even make a little logbook, write it down so you can remember specifically what blank and what size diameter, or what diameter hole you need for that adapter. Now, the reason you do that, if you don't already know, is, well, you don't want too small of a hole with a hot blank or a blank that's got too much pressure or gas buildup, because this can seriously damage your gun and or yourself. Make sure that once you've done all of this, that you also clear your barrel of any debris or loose metal from drilling and tapping. So again, take an air compressor and shoot air through it, or run a swab and a cleaning rod down the barrel and make sure it's clear. And there you have it, guys. That's how you blank adapt an SKS. Now, as of right now, that's the main and only option to safely and properly blank adapt an SKS. I think that there is potentially a twist-on variant that is available. However, I have no experience with these. I don't know anybody else that's used one, and quite honestly, it's like the same thing I was talking about earlier with the cleaning rod or cleaning pin cap. That to me, it just seems like the same. It seems like an exact copy of it. It may be made from better materials. However, that's not the issue I had when I tested that. The cap itself, physically from the pressure and gas buildup of the blank, twisted it off just like that. So anything like that makes me uneasy, and quite honestly, I wouldn't want to see somebody with that type of BFA at a reenactment, especially if I'm on the opposite end of that potential projectile. The biggest thing is you got to think about it. Things like this have absolutely happened in reenacting, and when it comes to stuff like this, you really want to be as safe as possible, because that's potentially harming or killing another person unintentionally, and it's just negligent in my opinion. With that being said, though, again, I would stay away from anything like that, and if you want to get into NVA VC reenacting and you want to use an SKS, that is your best option. Now, I know a lot of you guys probably don't like the idea of doing it, and it makes you a little nervous, or if you've got a really nice SKS, the last thing you really probably want to do is drill and tap your barrel. However, if you've got kind of a ratty old one or something you just don't care to take in the field and beat around with, which you probably won't be doing with your really nice SKS anyway, that's the go-to. I prefer it. It's easier, said and done. And these things, man, these set screws, it's just super simple. Once they kind of get to a point where you burn them out, they're super cheap. You can have handfuls of them with the diameter you need and easily adjust for whichever blank you're using. That being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this was informative, and I hope I covered all bases or questions you may have had using an SKS or blank adapting your SKS for reenacting. If there's anything I might have potentially missed, or if you have any other types of questions or would like to see some other things tested or addressed with blank fire and SKS, please let me know. Don't hesitate to let me know in the comments below, or just shoot me a message on Instagram or Reaper's Papa Sun Supply Facebook business page. Until next time, guys, as always, stay frosty, ride or die, Reaper out.